Here we are, a couple of days after the vote, and we do have to admit that the idea of the Democrats winning the House and the Senate is looking pretty improbable. At the same time, the way things have turned out, they still appear to be a pretty major win for the Democrats due to the fact that historically, just about every time, excepting George W. Bush in 2003 on account of 9/11 and the popularity that he had in dealing with the issue, etc. First-term presidents tend to experience either pretty major losses in the House and Senate or even shellackings. So in that sense, this is a great outcome, and it includes the fact that should Democrats win the Senate but lose the House, McCarthy then has a coalition that will be very hard to control, because you can imagine, if he's got a couple of seats and those seats are occupied by people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, got a real problem in getting things done. And then there's the fact that certain members of that House caucus will be up for re-election in 2024, so they'll be very motivated to control themselves if they want to be elected again, and so on. So all of that is true, but then there's another way to look at this as well, which is that, having said all that, the whole idea around why this would turn out favorably for Biden is the Jupiter station this month, a station we are now moving toward, not quite there yet. Jupiter travels at around a quarter of a degree, per day when it's moving quickly. That would be where you would see about 14 minutes, there being 60 minutes in a degree. That's the travel of Jupiter when it's romping through the sky. When it's, on the other hand, close to a station, it goes all the way to zero. That's the station. And that's when it becomes really, really strong, if it catches part of the chart that is favorable. This is the whole point, that for Biden, as he moves towards his birthday, actually, because it's later in the month, around when he's turning 80. But anyways, so there's Jupiter making its trine. Now, what I find interesting is that the way this situation is shaking out, we're noticing that nothing is decided yet. There are a lot of votes to be counted, and there are still scenarios out there pointing to the Democrats winning the Senate and the House, even though at the moment agreed that the more likely outcome is that they would lose the House by a small number of seats. And yet the possibility that they might still keep it is there. And because this lines up so well with Jupiter being extremely favorable for Biden later this month, I would not rule that out yet. I would still hold out the possibility that that might happen, especially when I look at the same movement and notice that that's not favorable for McCarthy. Jupiter is not favorable because the Jupiter opposes is Mars. And it locks into the station. It's not the aspect you want to have, not even close to comparing to Biden's Jupiter trine Sun Venus. And separately, the Saturn motion, as it's moving forward now in November, it locks in to McCarthy started in an unfavorable way. That's also not good. Of course, yes, I'm aware that that could simply be that he gets his victory, but it's a very tainted victory because of all the other dynamics, that he has to rule over a very unruly caucus and so forth. But there is that possibility that it won't work out at all, right? And then finally, in the end, at least for me, this whole thing has hinged on defanging the Orange Menace, really pushing back hard against this utterly malevolent cockroach that has infected our politics in recent years. And this has not been good for him at all. And that is also in the planets because, whatever else you might say, none of the planets are helping this guy. And as we go toward the end of the year, things get worse, not better. And I would be really, really surprised if he doesn't get indicted fairly soon based on where the planets are. But also you can see that politically, it has turned out to be a mess because even with his result, it's what I had said in prior videos, that if this election doesn't turn out well for Republicans, he's going to take the blame because he was so influential in putting forth his candidates who have done very poorly. And of course, the GOP is starting to notice that Trumpism doesn't work. I'm just amazed that by this point, they don't declare finally the man is a loser. Stop supporting him. Indeed, I don't think he'll be running for president, but if he does, he is the best possible candidate for Democrats because the GOP will lose if they put him as, their nominated candidate. There's no way they can win with this guy. You've seen he did eke it out in 2016, but 2018, they lost badly with him. 2020, he lost again. He's the one that caused the loss of the Senate. It's why the Democrats had the Senate during these 2 years. That was arranged by Trump and his shenanigans in Georgia. Don't forget that, right? Now he's done it again. The man is not a winner. He's a gaslighter. He tells you that he's a winner, but he's a loser. So that also has worked out fairly well. But I'll end by saying, let's wait this out. Let's see if this Jupiter station doesn't just bring us a pretty good result, but rather a great result, which would be keeping the situation in democratic control.